Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany. Welcome back, or welcome if you've never been here before. Today is the day that I finally get to read Caution to the Wind by Giana, darling. This is a highly anticipated release for me, and it has been for a while, okay? This is going to be the 7th in her Fallen MC series, which I personally believe is top tier. It's really set the bar when it comes to motorcycle romances for me. I adore this series. I am so excited. I mean, when she dropped that post that she was back on Instagram, I was cheering. I've loved the artwork that I've seen thus far, as well as the little, teaser trailer. So now it's time to get into the book. I have reread parts of Dead Man Walking in anticipation for this, just so that I could be reacquainted with Axeman, who will be our hero, and his daughter Cleo. I feel like I'm caught up. Okay, I've reread, I've refreshed, and it is the day, but I guess not necessarily the time though, because it's not up on KU yet. I typically like to go into highly anticipated releases or books that are really hyped up right away. I'm just getting off of work, which is why you find me in this onesie, and I'm not sure when it's going to release. So I'm going to busy myself with a bit of decorating before we get into it. Now I am shooting for a spoiler-free vlog, okay? I'm just here to document the moment. If you're anything like me, you've been waiting for a minute. So I'm here to commemorate that, as well as chart my thoughts when it comes to the tropes, their dynamic, and anything of that nature. Really trying to hit broad strokes. If I feel at any point I'm going to get granular, I will link it in the timestamps below. I will clearly mark it. You will know. But for the most part, this is going to be a spoiler-free vlog. That's the goal. So I'm going to busy myself with some decorating and get back to you when I've actually gotten into the book. So I will see you soon. I have made it to part 2 and I think this is a great place for me to stop, gather, and share my thoughts, because I don't think I went into why I consider this series to be top tier and a favorite of mine. And part 1 just has all of those markers. Found family is a strong through line throughout. It's the way that she binds her characters together through trauma, and it's trauma that informs every decision that they are making. It's beyond me. The writing is stunning, okay? And also just her personal brand and turn of a phrase. Oh, I love it. And when thinking about the tropes for this book, being that this is a 16-year age gap and my best friend's dad, I always want to question the taboo nature of their connection. I'm always looking for an author to make the stigma of that a fallacy and make that strong case and argument, and she's doing it in spades. It's the way in which she establishes May's friendship with Cleo and how Cleo's family is hers. And the way that she does that is so beautiful, but it's also tragic, because this opens with a very catastrophic and horrific event. The event that makes Axeman, who his name is Henning, okay? This beautiful, open wound, sacrificial alpha of a man. This event is what makes him a single father, and it is graphically depicted on the page. It's what binds them all together, and I'm just like, it's gut-wrenching. And I'm also just I love May as a heroine. She's strong and she's calculating and she's lethal, and her sort of vengeance plot, really both of their vengeance plots of devotion. I love how those paths are crossing, like the sequence of events. Okay, and there's a beautiful moment where May realizes that her love for him has evolved into more, and it's beautiful. His backstory, how his familial unit came to be. Henning, okay? Henning is such a beautiful man. Can I tell you that? I won't go into his backstory. Let me stop there. I feel like at the end of this vlog, I'm going to wave bye-bye to those who don't want spoilers and put a timestamp down below for those who do, or for those that just want to come back, because I need to process and document my feelings on the scenes that are sending me just the craft. They're two separate journeys already in part one, and just the love that found family feel in their connection is just so beautiful. And so I'm loving how this is evolving. It feels very great to be back, and I will be back when I have more thoughts. It's so hard for me to do a reading vlog without getting granular, but I'm going to achieve it and then gush at the end. But I am in part one, and I'm kind of trying to figure out where the enemies part is going to come into play, because I think I remember in one of her teasers that this was friends to enemies to lovers. At this point, it's reading like found family to friends to lovers or something along that nature. How was the enemy part entering the chat after where I just left off? It was a sort of major declaration. And I also want to see if like just the love between them, it doesn't feel salacious. It doesn't feel salacious like my best friend's dad. Like this, they're truly bound by trauma. All of her books have markers of that. It feels like she's going to be moving through like different kinds of love, because the first part is just so freaking tragic and devotional. I loved it. And that poignant moment when she realizes and it clicks for her that she wants it in a different way. And I can't wait to see how that comes into play with him being all angry, as I saw in the teaser. What makes him change up like that? So I shall see. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on part two and get into it, but oh my god, we're off to a strong start. Oh my god. Regret this angle, and I'm not trying to flash you, but this is real. I'm tired and I'm pushing, but I have thoughts. I finally know why he is big mad. Okay, Axeman is angry, and I think it's fitting to call him Axeman in the second part and Henning for the first, because of the big movement, the time jump, and his anger that's underscored by hurt, that's underscored by heartbreak due to his perception of her betrayal. And this is definitely not a standalone. I have seen characters that I love so much in a new light. And also, it just kind of reminds me of why I love The Fallen Men, the way in which they see women, usher them into the found family fold and treasure them. I do kind of feel compelled to share a quote. It's funny with Giana, as I was refreshing the events from Dead Man Walking, I noticed that as opposed to just like pulling a succinct quotable from her, they're usually like paragraphs. I'm pulling full thoughts. And so there is a moment in this book, and I'm going to read it out of context, that I think sums up what makes The Fallen MC just so special. So I'm gonna read that. I have reached the point at which the slow burn tension levee has broken, and there has been, this is angry steam. I think that showcases the very like layered and confusing feelings between them both. And oh, I loved it, but it's also heartbreaking. And it's also doing something. That scene is pivotal. I think that scene encapsulates that layered angst between them. There's so much that's happening, not just mechanically, but emotionally between them. And it's a very physical scene, but in a different way. That's all I'm gonna say. But I do want to read this quote that I pulled because I think it encapsulates what makes Fallen Men so special. And it is a little long, so bear with me. There are timestamps down below. You can skip ahead if you don't care. But out of context, this is from Axeman's POV. The glue, or the catalyst, or the flaming thing that drew us all together as one unit against all else, tragedy. Every single man in the Fallen MC had been through hell and come back. Willing or not, we didn't have just one hardship, one tiny tale of woe. We had a string of them, like black beads in a macabre rosary. Most of these men were broken beyond repair. Even the ones that found the love of a good woman weren't miraculously repaired by their connection. That love made breathing a little sweeter because it gave them something to live for. We were all broken, and we didn't try to fix shit about each other. We just stood together against all the tragedies of the world that inevitably came for us, and we tried to ease that burden as much as we could, even when it seemed impossible, even when it meant risking our lives for each other. I love it. I think that sums them up so beautifully, and what he's desperately trying to protect and not upend because of her coming back into his life years later is upending a lot. And she's still harboring secrets that I am not privy to, which I am so curious about. And he knows something is brewing because she is back in town, and they are forced into proximity because the linchpin between them is Cleo. And I'm loving it so far. I will be back when I have more thoughts, possibly because I am at 60%, when I have final thoughts and some potential spoilers. Just unpacking, if you will. I'll be back.
Contrast between she is a badass, you know, she knows how to fight, she knows how to stand up for herself, but also there's an intense vulnerability because I think that female readers really engage with a character if they're vulnerable. Yeah, because we can all relate to vulnerabilities, and sometimes we can't relate to strengths. Because, you know, I feel like our inner voice is so critical that we can understand, like, hating ourselves or, like, feeling insecure, but we can't really understand all the time, like, the confidence and the stuff that that May also has. So
interesting.
I think that I really wanted to show that, like, she's well-intentioned and she loves very deeply, but she's flawed and she can be very vulnerable. And I think, I mean, my hope was that people would really relate to that, and then aspire to kind of her badassery. Right. And I think that was...
I aspire to her badassery.
It's so interesting because I don't know that I ever really thought about.
I'll be back. I'm actually watching this live show, like this Instagram live, in the middle of filming my November wrap up. So I'm gonna wrap this book up. I've finished. Okay, I am back from work, from watching Giana on live, in the middle of my November wrap up. So if there's a jump cut there, I apologize. And you now are becoming privy to just a lot goes on when I film like one video. And sometimes you may or may not get them because it takes me a while to get it together over here. But we're here now. I have finished Caution to the Wind. I'm undoubtedly rating it 5 stars. It is incredibly character driven. Her characterization is truly top tier. The romance was a slow burn, angsty, and hard one. And it almost felt like a heist movie as well, because all of the gang is coming back together and really just pitching in to garner some peace. I also loved that May is a fresh and new character that we have not met before, as well as Axeman felt like that. I know that he was in Dead Man Walking. I did some rereading, and yet it just felt fitting to see the fallen MC through her eyes. She is such a fierce heroine that showcases her love by action. And oh, I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy for them too. Like, in my mind, in this fictional world, that HEA was hard won. I also thoroughly enjoyed the plot. She kept me guessing till the last page, the way that she wrapped that up. Oh, it was so beautiful. And so, as I've said, I am rating it 5 stars. I would like to talk about how I enjoyed how art is depicted and used to sort of bring them together in these pivotal moments. I thought that was so beautiful. And I'm not going to get too granular. I just wanted to talk about specific scenes and why I thought that they are so important. And so for those of you who have not read the book that don't want any spoilers, I'd like to wave off bye-bye and say thank you for joining me. Happy Vlogmas, happy holidays. I will see you in the next one. Bye. For those of you that would like to stay, that have read the book, I really just wanted to talk about their artistry as 2 separate characters and like the pivotal moments. Because I feel like there are 3 scenes that I was geeking on, okay? The first of which I think was so huge because it was like the first movement where he's starting to see her as more than his daughter's best friend, which is when he's drawing her. Like, remember the scene where they're in the kitchen and he goes into this sort of fugue state and he spends the entire evening just drawing her. And it's also kind of poignant because usually they spend these sessions drawing together, but she is his subject. And I love how Giana just describes like the line of her and how he's trying to capture her in her full light. I thought that was so beautiful. And it was a way to usher in his attraction to her as a woman, but also not make it like salacious and like about the flesh. It was just the shadow and lines. I thought that was beautiful. Another moment, okay? I mean, I'm getting out of order here because this is after the moment where he tattoos her that dragon that he drew her there in that scene that later gets tattooed on her body. And can we just talk about how he was a mosaic of a man, a doctor, okay? Cleo is his stepdaughter because he meets her mother and saves her out of that situation in the first place. Okay, can we just, he was such a beautiful man. But I love like a mosaic of a person because it's very relatable as to who we are as people. We have so many different facets, and I love that he was an artist, and I loved how that also kind of translated into him being a tattoo artist and brings Nova into the chat and the family into the chat. I just loved it, okay? I just loved it. And him tattooing that dragon, her feeling as if she wasn't befitting of having that, willing to go the rest of her life with that part blank. I was just here for it. Oh, that scene was just so luscious. And I'm not a tattoo artist, so I was able to do away with the reality of like it being sterile and cleanly and like all of that. Okay. I feel like she earned more than the tattoo in that scene, and I loved it. And then lastly, well, really, the reveal on her graphic novels. Her graphic novels of devotion. Oh my God, I loved that. I just loved how art was something that linked them, that bound them together, and it was used in such a beautiful way, okay, to create meaning. I was here for it. And lastly, that scene where he brings her into his room of artwork. Okay, I always love this in books. Okay, give me a hero that's had her tattooed on his body and she's just now seeing it because they're having a vulnerable moment, and it's like, oh, he's always cared. Okay, this scene where like she walks in and sees all of the artwork of her. It's all her. And then gets a little treat, okay, in between all of it. I loved that. I loved how art was used in this book. I absolutely just was elated to be back in the Fallen MC world, and I could continue to unpack this and continue to geek out, but he was a very different hero than the ones that we've met before, and he's definitely going up as one of my favorites from the series. Like, truly. Like, Axeman's kind of like the man that you could bring home of the Fallen Man. Like, you could bring him home. I don't know about your home. Mom and dad chill, okay? But I just loved him. So I just wanted to gush and gab about that. My battery's about to die. I want to thank you for joining me. I had so much fun reading this. If you have any opinions about this book, please leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to discuss. Thank you for joining me. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Woo! I did that before the battery. See you in the next video.